Hello, welcome to our onboarding webinar for new TaxAct professional customers. In this webinar, Jake Etheridge, one of our senior UX designers, will walk you through how to download your software, as well as walk you through how to set up your software so that you're ready for this tax season. If you have any questions, as always, please reach out to our support team. Thanks again for choosing TaxAct Professional.
What I am going to do today is I'm just going to go through what I think are kind of the essentials of getting onboarded, right, and getting started in the program. Here's the reality. I am not a tax preparer, so there might be some bumps and hitches along the road here. That is strictly due to my lack of knowledge, but hopefully it's going to be a relatively easy process, and we are going to get through this pretty seamlessly. And then, as Matt said at the end, we will have some time for Q&A. So as I go through this process, if there's anything that comes to mind, right, that you're like, ooh, I want to know a little bit more about that. Or, oh, hey, that didn't quite work for me on my end when I tried that. Or, even if there's a shout out of you're like, man, I love how y'all have chosen to present this. This is different than other tax softwares I've used. Feel free to write those things down. We will have a time to kind of go over those together. That being said, now we are done with all of the preamble. I am going to share my screen. And what I want to do first is we're going to just take this as if we have just basically gotten off the phone. We've just chatted with our sales representatives. We have purchased the software. I'm not going to show you too much in the practice manager here because it's not really the purpose of this webinar, right? We're talking about getting really onboarded. But if you had just gotten off the phone with your sales representative, right, you have purchase the software, you can actually go to taxact.com and sign into your account, and you'll see your practice manager. And I just wanted to call out that if you go to orders and downloads, you'll actually see your various orders from the previous year, and you can download those items, right? So over here, you would actually see a download button, and you can hit download and begin downloading the software, right? And in fact, I would really recommend, you'll see here, download our simplified installer. I would recommend going ahead and using that. It's going to make it a complete breeze. You're going to find yourself downloading whatever version of the software you have chosen is best for your practice in a matter of moments. I'm not going to run through that here right now just because many of you may have already at least gotten that far in the process, but I'd love to answer any questions. And if we have some time, I can show some of that towards the end here. But I just wanted to call that out in the practice manager here. Moving forward, though, into the actual program itself, I'm going to go over here to a new desktop, and I am going to open the program right here, and it's going to let me know that I've got some updates, right? So I can actually choose here to install right now these updates or not. This is something I really, really love about our program is that there is the ability for us to let you know, hey, we're going to handle all the tough stuff for you as keeping up with the latest forms, right? Keeping up with kind of some of the latest IRS laws, et cetera. And we're going to be sending those updates out regularly to you so that you can be really, really confident in the program's capability of keeping compliance with IRS regulations. So as I can see here, I actually have an update for the federal 1040. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install now. And then once it does this, it's actually going to prompt me to sign in. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just sign in to my account. So I will enter in my username. This is something that you would have selected during your initial account setup process. And then the same for my password. Once I have those things entered here, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And it's going to ask me if I'll remember the password. I'm not going to remember the password right now. And then we're already kind of jumping into the setting up the practice screen, right? So now the wheels are on the track, and we are ready to kind of accelerate downward into actually setting up my practice in TaxAct Professional. So you're going to see here, we're going to walk through this TaxAct Professional Setup Assistant. And one of the very first things you're going to want to do is decide how you would like to save your client and return data. We have two options within TaxAct Professional. We have a cloud version, right? That's going to be saving this data to TaxAct secure servers, or you can save it locally onto your computer. I want to say here, this is purely your choice and your discretion what you choose to use here, right? I've talked to many preparers. I've had the wonderful opportunity as a last year to speak with over 200 preparers, and I've heard a variety of reasons why someone might want to be cloud-based, right? Maybe they're on the go a bit more, right? They bring their not as super powerful laptop with them as they like to go traveling, and they want to be able to log in and do some work. And then I've also heard the case as well for saving it locally on their computer, where some preparers should have absolute confidence and they want to bear the weight of that responsibility, right, of keeping track of their client's data. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the cloud, but again, this is purely up to you. And you'll see that once I've clicked on the cloud, I'm actually going to hit continue and move forward. And what's going to immediately happen is I am now taken into the program. And now that I am in the program, pardon me, where did I just put this? Here we are. Okay, now that I'm in the program, what it's going to do is ask me if I would like to import my prior year information, or I can confirm that I'm a new TaxAct user. In this case and in this scenario, I'm going to be a brand new user to TaxAct. This is actually an account that I created specifically just for this, in order to kind of walk through this process a bit. Also, I just want to do a quick tech check. Matt, are you able to hear me, see my screen? We've had no major hiccups so far.
No, all is good.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure before we got too far along. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and hit I'm a new TaxAct user. So once I hit this, I'm actually going to be greeted with the initial setup assistant, right? So as you can see here, this setup is going to be broken up into really 4 sections that you're going to progress along, right? So first and foremost is the practice info. Then I'm going to be inputting info about the preparers associated with this practice. And then I'm going to be able to enter in some master information or master settings, if you will, that I specifically want for my practice to operate the way that I find to be most efficient. And then finally, you'll see here are the master forms, right? These are going to be the types of returns that you find yourself doing most often, and the types of forms that you want to automatically link with those returns, things like instruction letters, etc. Right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to answer some questions about my practice. Okay, so as you can see here, it has my practice name, and I would do mine if I am self-employed. And throughout the program, we also have these really, really helpful eye icons. So I'm going to tell you this right now. If you leave this webinar and you find yourself back in this situation and you're doing your onboarding process and maybe you're confused about something, really take advantage of those eye icons. I feel like they do provide a good amount of information. So what I'm going to do here, since I'm going to be self-employed, is I'm just going to input my name here, okay? So this is me. This is my practice name. Here, I can input my EIN, and I'm just going to put in several numbers, and then I'm going to check this because I am self-employed, right? So if I was not self-employed, right, then I would not check that. Again, you will find this. This is really what matters if you're the only preparer in your practice, right? So if I had maybe some preparers that were working for me that were also part of my practice and they were helping me prepare taxes, I wouldn't check this box here, right? This is strictly the practices information, not necessarily the preparer's information. As you can see here, it's already got in some of my address information. I love living on 123 State Street. It's the best, just the absolute best street in the world, especially in the beautiful city of Test City and the great state of Iowa. And so I think all of this looks correct. I don't really need to change anything here. This is information that ported over when I was initially setting up my account. And then you can see here, there's also foreign address information, if that was pertinent or relevant to you. It's not to me in this moment, and so I'm not going to answer this. And then essentially here we see some contact information. This is where you can choose to set up if you have a work phone You can input that information here. If you have a mobile phone, you can input that information here. If you had a fax line, etc. True story, I actually went to a preparer's office this last year and they had 5 work phones. So if that was the case, I think I would tell them, pick which work phone you love most and put that information here. But I'm just going to go ahead and put in my mobile information, as you can see here. And I'm going to say, that's pretty good. That's a great phone number. And I'm going to continue to my preparer info. Oh, and I just realized I made a mistake and didn't put my EIN as the right amount there. So the program is smart enough to recognize that. So if you do make a mistake, right? Let's say something happens like it just did. I can actually hit this practice info and go back. And I can actually go back to this practice information within here and make any corrections as needed. And again, it's smart enough to know what is correct and what isn't. So I made an adjustment there. It knew, hey, we're good. That is the right number of characters. Let's keep moving along, right? So now we're in a really fun spot. I've set up my practice information, but what's important now is that I set up my preparer information, right? This is what is going to be really, really helpful for those of you who, you have multiple people that are serving in your tax practice, right? This is where you get to input their information here that basically authorizes them as a user to be able to work within your practice's ID saved in TaxAct, right? What I'm doing today, just for the sake of simplicity, is I'm walking through this as self-employed. However, I will tell you that the process is virtually identical between the two. There are 2 extra steps when it comes to assigning preparers in your practice if you're not the sole preparer, and I will cover what that looks like here in a moment. But first things first, what I need to do is I am assigning the practice owner here, okay? So the very first person that you input here in this preparer info section is actually going to be the practice owner, right? So I would tell you always input, if you are the owner of the practice, if everything you've entered here in this practice info is related to you, you're essentially going to be inputting some of that information again, and then we're actually going to speed up the process and allow you to just copy over some of that data. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add new preparer. And once I've hit add new preparer, as you can see here, I have a preparer information field that is really similar to what I had on the previous screen related to the practice info, but this is specific to the preparer's information. So I'm going to go ahead and enter some info here. Again, this is me. I am the practice owner here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and enter in this information, and you would put in the SSN and the P10 here. And I'm going to just go ahead and enter this, and then I verify that this P10 is accurate and associated with the registered owner. So this is, we're going to ask you to do this, that for any preparer you add, right, that you are making sure that you are understanding and verifying that this is associated with the registered owner of that P10, right? This is an IRS requirement here. This is something that is essentially here to make sure that people aren't just hopping in, right, and doing taxes willy-nilly, but this P10 kind of helps identify you. This is where you would input the state ID number if you had one. To enter a bunch of ones here. And then there are some specific fields here related to New York and Minnesota where you would actually need to get specific about the role of this preparer, right? I'm not doing taxes in the state of New York. As you can remember, I'm in the beautiful test city of Iowa, so I don't have to worry about that. But I would make my selections here if they were relevant. And same here for the preparer type. For Minnesota, right? We see professional preparer, self-prepared, assisted, volunteer. And I'll tell you this, again, if you're going, I don't know what those mean, don't worry. We have this helpful eye icon here that actually will walk you through what is the definition of each of those things, okay? So you will have some assistance there. This is where that power of attorney related number would go. I'm not going to worry about this right here. And then this is the third party designee PIN. So this is that the IRS can discuss the client's returns information with the preparer, right? And so if you want to know some more information here, this is really so that if your clients allow me as the preparer to discuss with the IRS, right, then this is going to pre-populate kind of that consent in the client's return, and then they will need to specify that they are consenting. So it's essentially for me filling in my side, and then when the client receives this, they have the ability to opt in, opt out. I don't have to worry about this in this moment, but that may be relevant to you, and in which case you can just simply hit this and then input your PIN. I'm just going to input a few numbers here. And then we enter the interesting piece here. Remember how I said we want to try and be smart and save you a little bit of time. So as you can see here, as I'm setting up this practice owner, I actually am going to hit use my practice information. And it's going to go ahead and carry over some of the information that I had on that previous screen, right? So it's going to input over my practice name, the address line, et cetera. And then same would be true if I had a foreign address. I don't in this case, right? And then as you can see here, it's also going to import over some of that contact information, right? It already kind of carried over my mobile phone number. I'm going to go ahead and give it my email address as well. I will also tell you this, that is my email address at TaxAct. So if you have any questions outside of this webinar or anything that you run into that you would like to discuss or offer insights design-wise, feel free to send me a message at that email. It's jacob.etheridge@taxact.com. So I'm going to now move forward to step 2. Oh, it looks like I did not enter the right amount here. So let's go ahead and try this again. All right, so now we're here into the electronic filing info, right? So this is still associated with this preparer, right? But what I need to do is actually be putting in some of this EFIN info, right? This is another level of security from the IRS that allows us to know, okay, hey, this is a legitimate EFIN. So I'm just going to enter in some numbers here. And you're going to see here, it's actually going to check the database and let you know if it's found or not found, right? Which is really, really helpful. So you're not going to really have the chance to make any problems here, any issues of fat fingering the number. And if I hit that I icon, actually, it's going to take me to the EFIN verification process within TaxAct Professional. So as you can see here, it's actually going to walk me through how I can submit my EFIN documentation for verification, which I think is really, really helpful, right? So we actually have the ability for you to submit that, and then we're going to get back with you to let you know, hey, we've registered this EFIN in about 2 business days or so. And so I really like that we give you the ability to know instantly, hey, this is kind of that process, right? So I think that's really helpful. For this, I'm going to go ahead and just enter this. And this is a faux EFIN that I have. And as you can see here, we're actually going to get that status that lets me know this is verified, right? And then I can also choose the PIN type that's associated here, right? So this is like the practitioner PIN for the electronic signature. And this is what I can choose for it to be associated. Oh, I'm just trying to move. There we are, some of the Zoom screens. And as you can see, again, some of these eye icons can be really helpful. For instance, if I had this where it's only 4, and I might be like, well, I'm pretty sure that's the PIN. No, as I can see here, it really needs to be 5. So I can make sure that that's set up to 5. And this is an optional piece, but I do want to call this out because we do have many preparers that are interested in this. If you had actually gone through the bank application process, let's say that you had chosen to use one of our 2 bank partners, Republic Bank or TPG of Santa Barbara, you would actually be able to select them here, right? And then you would be able to input some of your unique information that is associated with your account with those 2 bank partners, right? So as you can see here, Republic Bank uses an RBIN, the Republic Bank identification number, and then with TPG, it's a slightly different process. You'll be getting some more information about that after you go through the setup process. For now, I'm going to say none, and I'm going to just simply move forward. And I can also set up here A default credit card. This is going to be really helpful for some of you preparers that maybe you don't have unlimited e-filing and you are just in your flow and in your zone as you're preparing returns, right? And you want to automatically charge a credit card for whenever you are going to go and do these e-file payments. So what you can do is actually just go here to the enter the credit card information. You would fill this out, what is associated with that credit card, right? And then when you hit continue, I want to make a big note here. The card is not processed yet, no payment happens, none of that. But now that credit card is going to be associated with that preparer. And so in the future, whenever I actually go to e-file a return, I'm going to see kind of in that bottom left corner, it's going to say, hey, just letting you know, we would be charging this card that has an expiration date of this, with this name on it, etc. Right? So that's really helpful and can help speed up that process. Oh, I accidentally hit something I didn't mean to. Here we go. Okay, I'm back here. Just trying to move some of these Zoom controls. Okay, so let's say I'm here and I feel pretty good about this. I feel like this is some pretty solid preparer information. I can hit save and close. And then as you can see here, I actually have the preparer name associated here, right? It lets me know that it's been assigned, right? And this would be different because this is me, it's going to go ahead and say assign. If this was a preparer that was associated with your practice, right, that was not you, you would actually see this, it would say invited, right? Or it would say sent. And then as you can see here, it lets me know I am the practice owner. And if I want to make any edits, I can just simply hit the pencil icon and then I can go and make the edits that I see fit, right? And if I wanted to add another preparer in this case, if I was not the sole preparer, I would just simply hit add new preparer here. And as you can see, it keeps doing this anytime I try to touch these Zoom controls. As you can see, it's got some slightly different information here, right? So it's got the preparer's info, the EFIN like we did, and then I can actually go in and set permissions. Let me do this just to get us along. All right, here we go. So now you can see I can actually adjust permissions associated with this preparer that I'm going to choose to invite. I can say they are a practice administrator or not. If they can access the data management tool, right? This would be if you want them to have the ability to delete client data, right? If you don't want that to happen, don't check that. I know some preparers or some practice owners I've talked to, they said, hey, I just want essentially my preparers to be able to jump in, create a return, and e-file, that's it. This is where you would actually have the ability to make those adjustments. So look at the level of detail here I can go into with my permission for each one of these actions, right? So I can choose whether to allow or deny if the preparer I'm inviting can edit practice information, if they can edit their own preparer information or not, right? Whether they can print or e-file, etc., right? So as you can see here, it gets pretty detailed. And then I can actually hit send email invitation here. And then the email that was associated with that preparer's info entered earlier, it will actually send them an email invitation that they can open and access. As I said, for this case, as I'm setting up, I am a sole preparer. And so I'm just going to move forward with this. And I'm actually going to move forward to the master information. So this master information is essentially the preferences for your invoicing, the letters, returns, etc. Right? So this is, you are essentially getting the chance to make your own default setting. That's something that we've heard from users is really important. And I'm happy to say it's pretty easy the way we have this set up in TaxAct Professional. So if I hit that setup master info, it's actually going to let me know that I have 3 different sections of master information I can change. How do client statuses appear, right? And what do they say in the program? I can change where data is directed or stored here. And I have kind of this general kind of catch-all settings, which I'll go over in a moment. But as you can see here, I actually can change what is the client's paid status, right? By default, we fill in what we believe are most common, right? Which would be not paid, paid, partially paid. I would probably add one here that just says like, they really need to pay me, because I've heard from many tax preparers that that is a common issue they run into. As you can also see here, these are the client's return status, right? So you can see the different return statuses that are going on here, right? We have imported, in progress, new return, PDF imported, it's completed. And then I can actually make edits to these titles by clicking that pencil icon, and I can actually change, instead of this saying return completed, if I just wanted to go for simplicity and have this say completed, I could do that. And as you can see, it's alphabetically organized. So it's going to automatically jump that completed right up here. Next is directories. Since I am going to be using cloud, this isn't as important to me. However, for those of you who are going to be local users, this is going to be extremely helpful because you'll actually be able to see the file path for where things are going to be saved. And you can go and browse those and even go in here and change those items. I'm unable to here at this moment because, again, I'm using cloud. But if you are a local user, you'd be able to go in here and make your own file path. And if you realize at any point, actually, I don't like the file path I've made, you can hit restore default location and it will correct itself. Finally, here in the general setting, we've got really two different sets of options here, our filing and printing, miscellaneous, and calculation options. So we've really got three. So as you can see, I can go in here and make as many little fine-tuned adjustments as I want, right? I can do things like say, hey, I'm gonna always print that form 77203 for an 1120F form. Or I can say, hey, after I've e-filed this, I want to automatically lock that return. I don't want to be able to go in, do any edits, anything like that. I need that to be what's true. Is if it's e-filed, it's locked up, right? And you can see there are a bunch of different filing and printing options that may fit your needs. And don't worry, you can always come back here and change this information. You're not locked into this forever. You can also see here some of the miscellaneous options, right? So you can do things like assign invoice numbers, right? To imported returns and kind of set how that's going to stagger up. And then I like this one a lot, the show message on return open indicating that refund has changed due to an updated or different version of TaxAct. This is going to be really helpful for those of you who maybe you're taking your time as you're doing one of your client's returns. And then obviously out of nowhere, some laws or the fundamentals of some laws have kind of shifted or changed or moved, and that affects that return, right, that your client would be getting. We'll actually notify you instead of relying on you on your own in the midst of your busyness to notice. We'll let you know, hey, there was a shift or a change here. And then as you can see here, we have the calculation options, right? So this would be how things are calculated on a form. One of the most common ones I've seen is people that say they want to go ahead and automatically complete boxes 3 through 6 of a W-2 based on what they enter in box 1 and box 12, right? So this could really save you some time on how those calculations work. I'll also tell you, don't worry, you can always override calculations when you actually get into some of the data entry. So even if you want to set this up as some master rules, it's not like you're locked in stone here, right? These are really more helpful guides or defaults that you can go in and adjust. And then I really like this. You can copy these calculation options to existing returns. So if I had some returns already existing in the program, I could go ahead and hit that and apply it across the board. So this all looks pretty good to me. So I'm actually going to close this. I have no clients, so it's going to let me know, hey, you kind of set up this stuff, but you don't have any clients, even though I had the option toggled copy to existing returns. And this looks great to me, so I'm going to move forward to the master form. So what I will do here is I'm using the federal 1040 version. I select my federal 1040, and then I'm able to sit here and set the master forms associated with these types of returns, right? So I have here the charge by form. I can go in here and set kind of what I like to do charging wise for these. As you can also see, there is this tab kind of functionality up here. So I can actually also go to my billing invoice, right? So I can say, hey, this is the preparation of 2022 federal income tax returns, and I always set it to, let's say, 200, right? and then I can set differences for states, etc. It gets pretty detailed, as you can see here. I can go and set my individual e-filing fees. You can even go in and make your own individual fees. I tell people this all the time for things like if they use our e-signature tool, I'll tell them, feel free to go in here and put in a convenience fee of $3 and offset the cost of you having to get an e-signature envelope, right? There's not a reason that you necessarily should be the one having to pay for that if your client prefers using e-signature. And then you also have your master instruction letter, right? So this is going to be what is sent to your clients. And specifically, there are things here that you can do with using your own letterhead paper that has a small logo or a large logo, or you can use the following letterhead and kind of write in, hey, you're consenting to be one of my clients, blah, 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 et cetera. However you like to input that information. We want to try and make this as free form as possible for you, but give you the guide posts for success. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. Let's say I set up the stuff the way I wanted. I've got all green checks, right? I can actually hit close here, and I am now set up, right? Oh, and it lets me know, hey, you're set up, but you do need an update for the following products before continuing. And it's letting me know that the federal 1040 needs an updating. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to select this federal 1040, and I'm going to hit install now. And then it's going to go ahead and automatically install in the background. And now that I'm in the product, it's also going to let me know about the tip of the day. I really enjoy the tips of the day. These are just little tips every single day that you open the program to let you know some things either about how to be more efficient in TaxAct Professional or things related to tax law, et cetera. And you can actually hit do not show again if you don't want to see it again. Or if you do want to keep seeing it, you can simply close out and you'll see it the next time that you log in. And before I close this out here, we're officially onboarded. Congrats, everyone. We did it. We're onboarded. I just want to show you some of this tab navigation here for the program, because now that you're in it, you may be going, okay, now what do I do? Simply, the first thing you're defaulted to is your client manager. This is where you can add clients, right? So I can hit add client here. It'll actually ask me what kind of client am I wanting to add. This is a brand new client, so I'm going to hit OK. And then I can begin actually inputting in some information here related to my client. And when I hit create client, it will automatically create that return, okay? For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that right here, right now. But that is essentially how the client manager functions, and you would see that client's information be populated here. The e-signature dashboard is an awesome tool. If you actually choose to use our e-signature tool within the product located in the filing step, you would have the ability to go to this e-signature dashboard and keep track of all of your envelopes in flight. As you can see here, I have 10 envelopes and I've got 10 remaining. So I haven't used them yet. And the moment I actually use one, instead of us seeing this web page that allows me to go and purchase some of these envelopes, I'll actually see a dashboard very similar to the client manager, exclusively related to the e-signature envelopes. Also, you'll see the appointment manager here. This can be really helpful for you to keep track of your own appointments throughout the day, or to even keep track of your clients' birthdays. I think it's a really powerful tool if you utilize properly. And then you've also got your professional reports over here. And there's not going to be anything here right now because I haven't done anything with this account. But this is a really powerful tool that allows you to see at a glance in a variety of different filters how your practice is doing and how you did this past year. Next is TaxDome. TaxDome is one of our partners that does practice management. And so if you actually choose to add on TaxDome, you'll actually have quite a bit of really, really cool features. It starts with TaxDome Lite at $25 a month. And then there's also TaxDome itself, which is $50 a month. This is something that can be really, really powerful if you find yourself needing to use any tools related to practice management. You also have your document manager here. Again, I have nothing here as of right now because I'm just getting started, but this is where I can see attachments associated with clients in their returns. And then finally, what I want to really showcase is the notifications tab. This is going to be kind of the hub by which we communicate with you as a user. And you'll have the ability here to actually see these notifications related to greeting you, related to updates for states, and also any additional updates. And if you simply click it, you'll actually get an expanded view of all of the information related here, including a section here at the bottom for product feedback and product suggestions. With all of that said, that is onboarding into the program and getting started from a really high level. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to now pass it back over to Matt.
Jake, thank you so much. For all you watching, I know we covered a lot of information, and I already see a couple of questions in the Q&A box. So we're going to get to those while I start sending these over to Jake to answer. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So Jake, I'm going to go ahead and jump into these questions.
All right. I'm trying to move over my meeting controls.
Yeah, so it says the third-party designee PIN, is that the same as the practitioner PIN for the electronic signature?
No, so that is going to be slightly different. So that is going to be more of a consent PIN, right? So think about it as like a password. This is the best correlation I can sort of draw it. Imagine when you go to the doctor's office, right? And you're basically saying, hey, I would like you to be able to discuss my medical records with my spouse, right? That is kind of what this is doing, is it's allowing the client to say, hey, I would like the IRS to speak with my official tax preparer in regards to some of my tax information, right? So they are different and they serve kind of different purposes. I hope that clarifies that.
Perfect. The cloud option is only for enterprise, right?
Yes, so the cloud would be related to the enterprise users. Otherwise, you'll be doing the local storage options.
Okay.
Which again, totally your call. I'm not at all advising anyone on which they should do. I will say, if you do have multiple preparers in your practice, I think you're going to have a much easier go using cloud-based options.
I've added a preparer, invited her, but it still shows her as inactive.
Huh, interesting. And my follow-up question to that, and we don't have to derail our time here too much because this might need to be an offline conversation while we troubleshoot that, is my question would be, what acceptance steps did she go through, or did she like never receive the email inviting her? I'd love for that user to email me. My email again is jacob.etheridge, last name spelled the way it is here on Zoom, at taxact.com. And I'd love to get you set up with some colleagues of mine that can hopefully figure out what's going on.
All right, next question. If you change your mind from storing in the cloud to now storing in the local, is there a screen where you can change that?
Great question. I believe you can change that. I'm gonna be honest with you and say I don't know what the process looks like because I haven't known many preparers that have actually walked through that, and I've been tackling some other things as I've walked through that. So again, I would say send me an email and I can get you connected with the right people for us to find out what that looks like.
I have another one that says I've not received my 2023 or 2022 Y22 software yet. What do I need to make sure to get my software? I've already approved. I can go ahead and answer that one. If you just go and sign into TaxAct and then go into your practice manager and then hit the orders and downloads tile, you should see your software there. And if not, feel free to reach out to our sales team or our support team, and that contact information is located at the top of our homepage.
Yes. In fact, I will show you exactly what Matt is talking about. making me sign in again. Now, it's being stubborn because I'm logged in on another Chrome tab that I've got going on. But yes, you would go into your practice manager and you would see it there. In fact, actually, I've got it open here. So there you go. That's why I can get in. It's under orders and downloads, and you would see it, and you'd have the ability to download it there. So
yeah, and just the reason it's not showing download on Jake's screen is because he's already done that.
Exactly.
So
where I have preview here, yours would say download. So feel free to go there, and then it will actually begin downloading.
If I change the information in the master information section, will all of the tax preparers in my practices setup get changed as well?
My answer to that would be, if you are the practice owner and administrator, you are at that highest level of slowing things down. So remember in that permissions area where I showed you where you can choose to set what your preparers can do, you can make sure that they can't change some of that master information. But they would be beholden to the rules you've set up there. So what I can do here actually is I can get a preparer up in my file menu, and I can go down to master information, and I can hit practice. And as you can see, this is my practice info, right? And then here are my preparers. If I had other preparers besides myself, they would be here, and I could have the ability to dive in and actually see what permissions they have and what they don't have. And then, sorry, I'm also navigating, moving these Zoom controls. I'm going to close the master information. And if I go back here, I can actually look at the master form data, right? And I can actually sit there and look at things associated with those master forms, right? So I would also tell you, anything I showed you in that setup, you're going to find that in general located right over here under your preparer tab under the master information, right? So feel free to change those to your heart's content. Maybe you start off your first month and realize something you've got set up is not the way you want to do it. Feel free to go make those adjustments.
All right, here's a good one for you, Jake. How do I move prior year client information from Pro Series Basic to TaxAct?
Ooh, I'm so happy that you asked that. What I can do is I can actually show you our data conversion tool here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add client, and we're going to say the question was in the context of this last year I was using Pro Series Basic. I've decided I want to go over to TaxAct Professional. Once you're in here, you can actually hit add client. And you'll see here, it's going to ask me what kind of client I'm wanting to add. And I can actually click right here, convert clients to TaxAct Professional, okay? And if I do that, I'm going to hit OK here. And it's letting me know I've got to run this update again. I'm in a pre-prod version, just so people know. It's not going to sit there and continuously ping you for that. It will actually move forward. It might not let me just because I'm in a pre-prod build. Let's see. Yeah, it won't let me. But I will tell you, if you actually hit this add client and then hit convert client to TaxAct Professional, you'll hit OK, and then it will actually walk you step by step how to convert your 1040 basic Pro Series client into TaxAct Professional. So it's very, very easy, and we've timed it. If you're doing just a few clients, maybe less than 100, it could take just several minutes. So it's pretty quick as well. Oh, it looks like you're muted, Matt.
For states that don't currently support e-signature, do you suggest signed/scanned copies of the 8879?
Ooh, so I don't suggest anything I'm not going to be putting my voice out there as advice for things. If you have a state that is not supported, I do know there are many other tools that might support that, right, that are out there, including TaxZone, actually. So even though we don't support a state yet, right, that maybe you're needing to do, we are on our path to get there. So I would tell you that as well. That is something we are kind of ruthlessly going after to make sure we're getting as much state support as possible. And I'll tell you this, even if it's not available today, that does not mean it won't be available by the end of the tax season. Again, this is something we are very much going after. I get very hesitant as far as requirements go when people say that they do, send, sign, scan, because there are certain requirements by the IRS. So I would just say whatever method you choose, make sure you're meeting IRS compliance and regulations.
Yeah, we have another question. How can I do one 1065 tax return in state? Can this be added at additional cost? The 1065 form is included in your purchase. So you should be able to do that. The only additional cost there would be if you did not purchase that state, that you need to do that 1065 in at the time of your initial purchase of the software. Another good, I think it's a great question. Can you amend a return after locking it?
Ooh, great question. To my knowledge, you cannot, which is why I tell people, I advise them not to lock things. The reason why some people may want to do it is they might be a practice owner. They might have a preparer, right? Who, what that preparer does is they basically work 99% of that return. And basically before they hit that submit e-file, they have the practice owner review it and give a final thumbs up, because they may say, hey, we just don't bother with amending things. I tell people, I'm like, I think it's probably best serving your customers if you offer that amending to your customers, because you just never know what might happen, right? I've been someone who's had to have a return amended. So obviously do as you see fit for your business, but that's my personal token piece of advice as someone who's had to use a CPA for years.
Once we e-file, is the submitted, rejected, or accepted status sent to the customer or to the preparer?
Could you ask that again, Matt? I'm trying to make sure I'm following the line of order.
Yeah, so they're just saying once they e-file, when they get a status of either submitted, rejected, or accepted, are those statuses sent to the customer or to the preparer?
So that's going to be for sure sent to the customer, to the preparer, because you're going to need to know, obviously, right, if you submitted that, what is its current status, right? Also associated with that customer, to my knowledge, it does not automatically send a message to the customer. That would be somewhat on you as the preparer. However, I do know there are people who have done workarounds, right, where you obviously can just tell your customer, hey, this is your, you can go to irs.gov and actually look up the status of your return, right? So they also have full capability of doing that as well.
So Jake, this is a good one. I'm not sure I've heard this one asked before. It says, how can you transfer client files between two different businesses that are both on the cloud?
Ooh, okay. So transferring information between two different businesses that are both on the cloud. That's a great question, actually. And I could see where the use cases would be there. I would say this, because I don't want to just give an answer here. This is how you do it and then be proven wrong. I would tell the person that asked that question, send me an email. Let me meet with you, because I want to troubleshoot and figure out how we can do this, because I'm sure there's a way. I just don't want to steer you wrong. And then whatever we figure out as an answer here, I think we could probably send as a follow-up maybe to attendees here if they're interested, right, in the answer to that question. So again, my email, jacob.etheridge@taxact.com.
Can we have more than one practice owner in the TaxAct software?
Great question. I believe you have one practice owner, but you can have different practice administrators. Okay, so let's talk about the hierarchy here. Owners, like the head honcho person who, their TaxAct practice ID is associated, right? They're operating under this practice ID. That's going to be the big thing, right? There's that one practice ID that is associated with this customer. But underneath that customer, right, we can have administrators, right? Remember when I was showing you how that adding the preparers and there was that little checkbox that said like, make this a practice admin? They're essentially almost like pseudo practice owners. They have a lot of the same responsibilities or a lot of the same power, right? But they're not having to create a unique practice ID in order to operate, okay? And then underneath that rung, you would have your preparers, okay? So that's kind of that hierarchy is like owner, administrator, and then preparer. And that's how you would set that up.
All right, got another technical question for you.
Okay.
Tried to convert ATX PDF. Tech support said file must be less than 500 kilobytes. I minimized it. It would not convert. Any suggestions?
Off the top of my head, I would say if there's a way you can break up that data into being several different PDFs, that's going to be your best bet, right? Because it sounded like what's happening is you just got such a large amount of data in one PDF. I'm unsure how ATX does it, like how they can do the breaking up of things. Like you may have to do where you go and select a certain amount of client data and then like save that as a PDF and then go back and then select another set of client data and save that as a PDF. As tedious as that may sound, that might be the way to move forward with that. Otherwise, I don't know. And I will not try and lead you down the wrong direction and just say that I'm unsure. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, it says, I want to confirm that TaxAct currently doesn't support e-filing for state returns.
The TaxAct currently doesn't support e-filing. Are you in reference to like right here in this moment on January 4th, you're saying we don't support, or my question would be, or are you saying in general we don't do e-filing for state returns? Because I know that we do e-filing for state returns. As far as when that's available per state, that's really up to the state. It's not really up to us, to be honest with you. We simply follow what the states do, which I know probably sounds like a scapegoat, but it really is the truth. You would be surprised at how much of our work is dependent on how the states operate and when they choose to essentially let floodgates be open to begin receiving e-files. So that would be my clarification there.
What if a client had an account with TaxAct and filed with TaxAct the prior years and is moving to my professional software? Am I able to transfer their data from their account to mine?
Interesting. You know, I'm gonna be just super candid here and say I don't know. And my reasoning for saying I don't know is that because in the top of my head, there'd be several ways you could do this, right? So TaxAct from the consumer side makes it extremely easy for them to get their data and be able to share it with like CPAs if they want to move forward, right? Or tax preparers in general. So the reason why I say I don't know is because I don't think that's necessarily something that you instigate as much as that your client would have the ability to get their information and bring it to you. I hope that makes sense.
And then, Jake, do you know if we can transfer data for business returns from Easy Accounting into TaxAct Professional?
I think that would depend on the file formats of those things. So what data are you wanting to present over, right? And then what is the file format of it? I'm going to be honest and say I'm not very familiar with Easy Accounting. It's not I'm not familiar. I'm not as familiar as I could be. So I would definitely want to investigate that some more. Again, I would tell this user, please feel free to email me. Just because I would love to sit down and chat and figure out what their needs are. Because even if we don't have a solution right here, right now, today, that doesn't mean we won't have a solution in the future. And in fact, us being able to sit down with them and get some insight might be the way that we move forward with getting a solution there.
And then, Jake, I've got time for one more question.
Okay.
Can my clients send me or upload documents through the document manager?
Great question. So if you are subscribed to Client Exchange, actually, you'll have the ability to send documents back and forth from your end to your clients and from them to you. So over here in this kind of document manager area, this is going to be more focused on attachments, right? Associated with those clients. So I would say you're not necessarily doing it here. You would be doing that in Client Exchange. Also, I'll say this, the way our e-signature tool works is that it's going to be sending information back and forth using DocuSign as a partner of ours. And so in the e-signature dashboard, you would also have the ability to see what documents you sent to your client and the documents they've signed and sent back. So I hope that clarifies and answers any questions.
Yeah. Well, again, Jake, thank you for walking us through this today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for your questions. Again, if you need to reach Jake, he loves to interact with customers, as we all do. His email is jacob.etheridge@taxact.com. Also, if you need to reach out to support, you can do that at 319-731-2682. So thank you again. We are going to be sending this recording out to everyone who joined, and then it will be available in the future. So again, thank you, Jake. Thank you, everyone who joined, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Bye.